Whenever people ask me where I'm from, I immediately answer India. Both my parents are Indian, therefore the nationality that I identify with is India. But I never lived in India, so I don't know a lot about the culture. I don't speak any of the national languages, so it's hard for me to connect to the culture. And I grew up in Dubai, so I don't know the intrinsics of the culture. So whenever I'm in India and someone asks me where I'm from, I don't always reply India. Sometimes I say Dubai, because this was a city that I was born in and brought up in. Living abroad and being an expat has made it extremely hard for me to connect to my culture. Being an expat has resulted in a figurative and physical disconnect from my culture. I have the fortune of living in a country where the majority of citizens are from my home country. But not everyone is as fortunate as me. I have been studying in an international school for 11 years now, and every year we celebrate International Day. When I was younger, we had a Russian girl in my grade, and every year on International Day, during the performances, she would get up onto that stage, and alone, she would dance. At that time, she was one of the only Russian students in our school, and it wasn't a nationality greatly represented in the UAE. But she still found a way to engage with her culture, to keep it alive and close in her heart. Everyone has a place where they belong, and some place they call home. Home isn't always a place per se. It can be a person, a feeling, an item, or a culture. For me, home isn't my house. It isn't my parents and my brother. It isn't my cousins and my aunts and my uncles and my grandparents. For me, home is every time I eat my national food. Home is every time I'm with someone and they accidentally speak in Hindi. Home is every time I'm with someone and when they ask me where I'm from and when I say India, they say, I know, but in where? For those of you not familiar with India, India is a huge country with 29 states and 22 official languages with many more dialects. So any Indian knows to ask another Indian not where they're from, but which part of India they're from. Home is every time I'm with someone and they casually mention how they're celebrating a festival that I also celebrate. Home is every time I see my culture around me and know that although I might not be home, I'll always have a piece of home with me. Because no matter how hard the people around you try to sustain your culture, it's not a perfect solution. We are living in an increasingly globalized world, and our identity and culture is in danger of being lost. I keep talking about the negative aspects of being an expat, but it's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing that people are moving out of their home countries. It's not a bad thing that extended families don't live together. It's not a bad thing that people are marrying others outside of their own culture. None of these are bad things. The downside of this is this often results in a child having limited connections to their culture. It's like learning a language. You can memorize all the vocabulary, you can learn all the grammar rules, and you can practice for hours on end. But until you're surrounded by people who speak the same language, until you have continuous exercise of this skill, you'll never truly master the language. And don't get me wrong, it's not that I'm not grateful. Grateful that my parents moved to a country with better living conditions. Grateful that they moved to grant their children better opportunities in life. Grateful that they have tried to keep my culture alive for me and my brother. It's not that I'm not grateful and that I don't appreciate what an expatriate life has done for me and my family. It's just that it's not enough. Culture is such a huge part of our identity. We introduce ourselves with our name, our age, and where we're from. For example, my biology teacher, her parents are from the Netherlands, but she grew up in Hong Kong and that's where she's from. An acquaintance, she looks Indian, but she's a quarter Singaporean and she grew up in Singapore, so that's where she's from. An old friend, she's Indian but has a Canadian passport, so she's Canadian Indian. A new friend, she's from Texas, not Pakistan. And kids all around the world, they don't know where they're from because they're third culture kids. Culture is a huge part of our identity, and if we don't work to preserve it, we're in danger of losing it. So while living abroad is great, it leads to better job opportunities, a better lifestyle, a better childhood for your kids. It also means you lose your identity. Thank you.